Hello, everyone. My name is John. I'm joined by my very good friend here, Zach. And we're going to talk about our insecurities and our relationships with our fathers and a complete unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic. How are you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing okay, man. Feeling pretty good, dude.
So, appreciate Zach inviting me. We went at a showing that was starting at like 10:20 or something, but after all the previews, it probably didn't start until 11. And despite that, neither of us fell asleep. And it's not necessarily the most fast-paced movie, but I was happy to see that.
Yeah, you even mentioned to me that you'll probably pass out, and I looked over only one time towards the end. Did you have your eyes closed for like a couple seconds, and then you'd open them? So I think, yeah, you you did good.
Cool, man. But yeah, so we figured with this movie that there's not really a big need to talk about any spoilers. So there'll be some minor things here and there, but it's more about the overall experience and not necessarily the storyline. Well, I don't know. That's probably not a fair thing to say, but in any case, you don't need to worry about too many spoilers here, unless you didn't know Bob Dylan plays a guitar and you consider that a spoiler. So, spoiler alert. Bob Dylan plays a guitar and he sings.
That's very kind of you.
Cool, man. Well, I guess I'll give my quick take, and then we can talk about some of the details. But uh, I did not know hardly anything about Bob Dylan going into this movie. Nothing about his personal life. I shared with you that years ago, my dad had like sat me down and said, "You need to listen to Bob Dylan and listen to some of his music." And there's one song that stood out to me where he was talking about a monkey, which I thought was really cool, and being a funky monkey or something like that. And so I knew some his general style of music, and I knew some of his music, but I knew nothing about his personal life or the impact that he had or anything like that. So uh, going into it, I was, it was not something that I was like really trying to seek out to watch, but because of our friendship and wanting to spend time with you, I went and saw it, and I'm glad I did because I ended up really enjoying it. Um, I felt that from a musician's perspective, there's a lot of things that I appreciated about it. It was not some kind of crazy over the top type experience, but overall, like I had very little to complain about it. So, and it's sparked an interest for me with Bob Dylan and listening more to his music and checking out some of his interviews because I didn't have that baseline to kind of compare to see if the acting measured up to kind of the vibe that he gave off. But so overall, I enjoyed it. But what are your kind of overall thoughts on it?
I thought it was entertaining. Um, I thought it did a pretty good job of kind of showing what it was like for him to break into the music scene and to kind of realizing his talent to its sort of full potential, like kind of what we know it to be today. Um, yeah, I enjoyed just seeing how things were in the '60s. You know, the way they depicted New York City and like the clubs that he was playing in. I like that one dude. He was playing like the tambourine, like I like love, no matter what. That was pretty. Um, it was cool. It was interesting to see how they showed his relationship with the other musicians. Um, and even if you don't know who Bob Dylan is or even care about it, it's still an interesting enough story, to kind of just watch it, just for what it is.
Yeah, I think I appreciate it on multiple levels. I'd mentioned the musician perspective, but also just from a historical perspective, seeing the impact that he had on not just the music scene but culture and how things were at that time. So I'm curious, and I think we're a good complement to each other in many ways, but especially with this one too, because I had very little to no history or exposure to Bob Dylan, but you showed me you had a CD box set that looked really cool. Seemed like you knew a lot of his music, if not all of it. You've been reading his book that he had written. So, in terms of, I'm just curious how you would consider yourself in terms of fandom or level of knowledge around Bob Dylan, what you would consider yourself, and if that having that knowledge, how that affected your perception of the movie.
It's a good question, man. I feel somewhat more of like I'm educating myself on it. You know, I know some of his albums. I know one of his albums really well called Time Out of Mind, but that box set covers a lot of his early stuff and all like his Columbia albums up until that point when it came out in the early 2000s. And it's fascinating that he broke into music when music was sort of expanding from classical, jazz, blues, getting more to folk and rock and all that. But yeah, it. I feel like I'm educating myself, John. By listening to his music, reading his book, watching that movie, and it's a lot of fun. I mentioned this to you today in a voice message that it's just a lot of fun to intertwine all those worlds, all those media worlds of movies, music, books. Um, it almost feels like I'm learning, like it's like American history in a way, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but forgive me, I forgot some of I forgot the question.
So I guess I was trying to think of, since I went in with basically no backstory, there was or very limited exposure to Bob Dylan. I didn't know if, like, just looking at the actor and Timothy Chalamet was like, for me, I didn't know, I had a general idea of what Bob Dylan looked like, but I didn't know it super well. So maybe we can dive into specifics. Just seeing him from a look perspective, from his voice of talking to his voice of singing to his body language. Was it one of those deals where it felt kind of weird and awkward? Like, I don't think I know Johnny Cash that well either, but the Johnny Cash in this movie seemed a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
So, but so since you have more of that exposure, how did it look and feel and sound to you, from at least from the Bob Dylan actor perspective?
I thought he did a pretty good job. And once he got famous, they showed him walking around New York with his glasses on. He had like a little bit of a different hairstyle. That really
Mm,
looked like, that was like, damn, that was dead on. Um, so I thought that was interesting. I thought that was done well. I know that actor, took voice lessons to really try to sound like him. Um, and he has a distinct voice, even a speaking voice. It's somewhat similar to his or I should say it's similar to his singing voice.
yeah,
That doesn't always happen. He has that
yeah,
kind of a sort of it's a little slow draw, somewhat kind of nasal in a way, you know.
yeah,
Uh, but I thought he did a good job um, capturing his essence um, and just kind of how he looked throughout like the different stages that they at least showed him. Um, yeah, I rather enjoyed it as far as like just seeing him and watching him interact.
cool. So there's nothing that stood out to you as this is like way too different or awkward or not like Bob Dylan, to where it takes you out of the movie and you couldn't enjoy it or anything like that.
No, and I'll be honest, I don't know that. I'm not too versed. Like even with his interviews, I think you and I discussed watching a 60-minute interview, and I watched another one from like the 80s. Um, so I didn't have a lot of exposure to him, just watching him, speak and conduct himself outside of his music. I thought he did a good job. And usually when it comes to these like biopics, do a pretty good job of like studying and picking up on things, and then they get to the method where they are that person.
Point of his talking voice deep voice, you're very masculine, like you sound respectable, and then when you sing, you sound like a very weak man.
I wouldn't agree with that assessment. You do sound different though.
But in terms of the singing in the movie and the playing, it seemed like it could be moving magic, and things have just gotten better than biopics I've seen in the past. But it seemed like the actors and actresses were the
watching like the actual person.
yeah.
I'm gonna let Lulu outside really quick.
All right, cool, no problem. We'll just edit this part out, and no one will ever know.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect. Okay. What are you doing?
While Zach is gone, I can talk about my deepest, darkest secrets. It's one time when I was a kid, well, man, I shouldn't admit to something so dark and messed up. It'll make people think less of me. But I guess I should do it anyway. One time when I was a kid, they used to have these candy dispensing things in like supermarkets more often. And I really wanted some of that candy, but I didn't have money because I didn't work. And so I took one of those gummy worms and I ate it. I didn't pay for it.
Choice.
So now you know all my deepest, darkest secrets. And so hopefully no one ever sees this and I can just edit it out.
Sorry, man. My dog was like kind of, she couldn't get herself up, and I gotta like let her be outside for a little bit, keep an eye on her.
No worries at all, dude.
Yeah, but this is good practice, man. Just like talking back and forth, it's funny, just like with recording a podcast, man. Like I'll hear like those little mouth noises, and when we recorded my book, it's just
have you heard that today?
No, but just like completing a thought, like being, like I said something today where I was like, I rather liked it. I'm like, wow, it's gay. I never say, I don't talk like that. The fuck am I saying that? Like finish a thought, realizing I'm being recorded, trying to be, coherent, concise. It's just funny how like things will differ when you're being recorded.
Yeah. We're being watched.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sorry, man. I'm gonna let her be outside for a little bit. And then I'll have to go get her.
No worries, dude. Cool. So getting back to A Complete Unknown, I had very minor complaints about it. I'd say the scale was pretty small in terms of the duration of time. It was only, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something like that of time, as opposed to some of these biopics where it's like you see them when they're a baby and then when they're an old man. And
yep.
Justin Bieber's playing drums on YouTube when he's like 10 or something.
Yeah.
And then he's at the roast and Martha Stewart's making fun of him. So this was just a short time period, but I kind of like that because then you don't have to deal with a young actor looking super old and it looking kind of funny, or a
Yeah.
different actor.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind that, but it is also just a short window into his life, and I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about and know about him, I assume. But I can appreciate it for that. I'd say also too, like nothing super crazy happens in the movie. The scale, it's nothing like super epic or like um, it's just kind of him living his life, and I think also as a result of that, there it didn't tug on my heartstrings like crazy, where I got felt like it was super emotional. But I don't think it was trying to do that either. It
Yeah,
was
I feel
there were
that.
things that were definitely involved emotions, but um, I didn't think they were trying to exploit that and make it seem more than what it was for the most part. And so I can also appreciate that, but it's not like Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, where it's this long epic of a man's life and the impact on the world and like it coming full circle type of thing.
Yes, I totally agree, man. It was in the span of a couple of years, and I thought it was kind of neat how you could see so much change within that time, within him, within within the world or the United States. Um, and it's just kind of interesting how like it seemed to go back to the title, Complete Unknown. It went from being an unknown to just exploding. It seemed to be like the right place, the right time with the early to mid '60s, and then New York City and the way rock music and folk music were, becoming more accessible and more palatable. That's always that aspect of it was really interesting to me. Um, him coming from like Minnesota and going to New York City, trying to find himself. So that was pretty cool. Just like that story of trying to make it. Yeah. Yes, man. I agree. I think it's interesting to see it because it's so just drastically different. Um, Sometimes like the couple scenes where he would get his band together and they jam a song, it seemed to be like the first time they like jam earth. And like the guy's like, oh, I can show you what I can do. And it's just such a good gel. Come on, you don't think they went through 20 takes and like, okay, fine, I get what you're doing. That was a little corny to me. I thought, like, come on, man. The first fucking time that they're there doing something, it's like perfect. And, he didn't know that this guy was so good at piano or some shit. It's like, I don't know, it's a little too Hollywood for me. And then I think I mentioned that the first couple times, or the first time he like plays the song, people are like shitting their pants, like, wow, oh my God. That
Yeah.
it could have been, but just felt a little too much.
All right. We had a technical issue where Google Meet just said a problem occurred and gave no other explanation. So we're not sure if our previous several minutes of discussing about this movie has gone into oblivion or not. But in any case, I think we were close to our final thoughts anyway. Like I said, I overall enjoyed the movie. At the same time, it's not like this amazing, mind blowing thing that you need to drop everything and go and see. I really like the director. He had directed Logan, which I thought emotionally for me was very heavy in terms of doing it. I don't even care about X-Men or any of that stuff. I think a lot of it just reminded me of my dad and like a Clint Eastwood type rugged man. But in any case, this movie was not that, but I really enjoyed the history aspects of it. I enjoyed the music aspects of it. And overall had a great time with just very minor to no complaints and just enjoyed learning about it. So I would recommend it if that sounds like something you'd enjoy. And how do you feel about your overall take on this, Zach?
I enjoyed it as well. I thought, even if you don't know anything about Bob Dylan, you could watch it and it makes sense. Being a fan of his, it's interesting to see how they depicted his, coming to New York City, getting into the folk scene, and then later on talking about like him going electric versus him staying in the more acoustic folk genre. But yeah, I rather enjoyed it. I thought it was informative and easy watch. And I liked some of his personality. Like he wasn't too friendly, overly like
Yeah,
trying to please people. He definitely seemed set on what he was trying to accomplish. Um, and yeah, it was interesting. What I thought was cool is like they'd show these different moments, and then you can go on YouTube or Google and find those same moments. Excuse me, and read about them or watch them and see like what they're see them sort of play out. But other than a couple of corny things, I really liked it. I thought it was good. Definitely something I would recommend, especially to a music fan.
awesome. Well, thank you guys. Hopefully everything is all there and this will be a complete review, but if not, it was good talking to you either way, Zach.
You too.